Welcome to a transitions presentation. I just wanted to kind of explain how I go about thinking of transitions. In the motion graphics world, I kind of look at it as anything can transition to anything and possibly communicate something. Because that's kind of one of the fun parts about animation to me is we're not tied to like the limitations of the real world, whereas video you kind of are. So every element on screen can kind of be strategically placed with transitions in mind, and especially with motion graphics, like simple shapes can morph and stretch into kind of whatever you want them to or need them to. So um, I kind of see like every shape as an opportunity to where unrelated objects can become related, or related objects can become related, all can continue to be related. Um, and so one of those strategies I kind of put in place when I'm trying to think of a transition between two scenes is just kind of take in all the shape elements on screen as just out of context and see what can be done, like circles to circles, squares to squares. What's in this scene that could potentially transform into something from the next scene? And then I like to draw out my transitions in the beats. And for me, not transitioning is kind of like a last resort. I really try and have some fun with all of the transitions in these motion graphics videos. So with DMG, I'm gonna go ahead and just go through a bunch of the transitions from that video and how I kind of thought about how I thought about them. So for this first one, there's a decent amount going on. I have the boards over here going like this order, but we needed to transition from like the old job board to the new dynamic system. So for that, I figured, why not just like smash the old job board with the new dynamic uh, monitor, like software. And since it was software, I thought it'd be nice to put it on a monitor. And then also, in addition to that, like another tertiary detail was this character was an electrician. So I was like, well, it's a monitor, so why not kind of have fun with that and have her plug in the monitor to like start this like the new story. Um, and then we needed to go to this part where we kind of explain what DMG does. They're like, we take a look at every part of your company, no matter what you do, if it's like landscaping, or they wanted to get landscaping and snow plowing, because I guess those are some of the two big things that they uh, get jobs for. So I kind of took a look at every element on screen and I was like, so I have this like striped thing behind the DMG thing when it glows. I can use that as a transitionary element, because if you put it up at the top of the screen, it kind of looks like sun rays. So I would do that to then set up the fact that we would have this like landscaping job that morphs into like a snow plowing job. So I could take the sunny background and then subtly change it to like a cloudy snow thing to kind of reinforce uh, that kind of change, and also have every element on screen have a use in the video. That's another thing I try and do. If I do put like a background element or something on screen, I like it to have like multiple uses in multiple scenes. Um, so that was that one. This next one kind of got a little fuzzy. The intention was with like through the solution section of the video, DMG like connects everything. Everything's connected. It's an all-in-one piece of software. So I thought, why not have all of these scenes just like connect together, um, and be kind of seamless in that way. So the intention was to have like set up these pipes in this scene to directly transition up to like the GPS location marker scene, which then you would set up those lines to horizontally match up to the stuff that would be on the circuit board for the next person, the electrician job. Um, Originally, it was like the whoops the GPS like map was supposed to be full screen, but they wanted to show their software, so there was kind of, it got a little bit fuzz hazy there. But we kind of came up with a solution where we would go full screen for the, so we could keep that next transition with the circuit box thing. Um, and then yeah, also just like it was a challenge to try and get the animator to kind of understand this, and like line up the GPS things, especially with the pipes. That was kind of a challenge, and like having a such a color difference that we didn't want it to feel like stark. So I think we for the most part got there with a few like client and animation challenges. I think it worked out in mostly intact. Um, for this one, we needed to kind of show like someone searching for a job unsuccessfully. And then we knew that we wanted to end up in like a different location. So we wanted to start, well, we had this scene where we were kind of outside this little bar graph landscape uh, scene, and then we knew that we wanted to have the be in the plumber's truck at the end. So I kind of thought about, instead of, well, kind of a spin on like a three rectangle transition, using the foreground element as like the vehicle to drive us from location to location. And why not have the landscape guy like drive to each location to find these jobs, kind of reinforcing the fact that this is not an easy process. And we also like could not, well, we also didn't want to miss an opportunity to have like a human moment where he sort of like gets disappointed by like um not finding the right job. And then it seamlessly flowed into, since we're already transitioning through locations, it seamlessly flowed to transition out to the plumber location. And like this is a good example of like reality doesn't really matter in animation. You can kind of just you can get anywhere by doing pretty much anything. Perspective doesn't make sense, but all that really, the intention was just to have like the journey makes sense more than like the physical things. Not the most successful transition, I'd say. I think it went by a little too fast for anyone to really take in, but the intention was there. Uh, this one was kind of a challenge to get. I think it got there kind of reasonably well, but the original intention was like you're being taken away from your job here to then having to find a new job on the job board. So you're going from here to here. And originally I boarded out having each element on this before screen kind of transition and morph into the job board section. So like the circuit breaker thing would literally morph into the job board, and then like the element I had set up over here would kind of be this middle section, and the fence would go down, and the little stripes in the background would kind of mask into the circle. I think there was just a lot on the animator's plate, and I think that just could not could not happen. I don't think there was enough time. So this was one thing where I saw this and I was like, it communicates what it needs to communicate without, being exactly what was intended. But I yeah, definitely like making a lot of compromises, especially with all this transition stuff, is always just kind of nice to have, and little flavor details for these motion graphics videos where something like this communicates the point just well enough without being exactly what was intended in the boards. Um, then, well, yeah, here, this one, um, I guess this is more of like a visual planning thing than a transition, but we knew we wanted the electrician to be get from like the bottom of this bar graph in the before story to having to like get the big jobs that she wanted at the end of the top of the bar graph or whatever. So I thought it'd be fun to instead kind of show initially that this job that she's doing is clearly much bigger than the one she was doing in the before story. But then when we zoom out, we zoom out to see that we like are at the top of this bar graph that we set up in the intro, kind of uh, revealing the full context of the job and kind of the full circleness of this video. Um, yeah, I don't think I really wanted to say anything more about that one. Just kind of leaving, or how do I say that? I don't know, just revealing the I don't know. I don't know what I'm saying. So I guess I'll just move on from this one. I wanted to briefly mention this Pixis transition just because I think this is a good element of just taking in what shapes were on screen and how we could transition them into the next scene. Getting from a chalkboard to a apartment complex. Those two items are very unrelated, but we wanted to show that, because Pixis does what it does, it makes your complex, making your running your complex easier and better or whatever. So eventually we kind of landed on why not have the chalkboard kind of flip over and become the base that the apartment complex was on from the intro of the video. And I think that turned out kind of really, really better than I thought it would, honestly. And I was pleasantly surprised with how that all read and communicated the idea clearly. Um, and then I wanted to just like go through a recent example with this FOS of Canon design of how I was thinking about transitioning between scenes. So the intention was like, we have all these documents and then their software, they're all uploaded to their software, which you can like have immediate access to. So, in the lowest point of the story, there's like this little eye that was open is now closed, and they're stressed about all these documents they have to sift through surrounding the screen. And then FOS core comes in with their logo, and then we go into their software and kind of get into the granular details of what they do. So you could easily just, pan up to their logo and then transition over to their software. But I think kind of relating these items more together was what I try and do with transitions. So I was like, well, if these documents are going to be uploaded into the cloud, why not, for the logo transition, literally take these documents and upload them into the cloud, and then like preview the software by having this tablet where other stuff is uploaded to it for the like logo screen that we usually have in videos. And then because of that, we can just kind of morph that into the software when we go into the granular details of what FOS core is, and kind of connect everything together as much as possible. And then the last thing that I wanted to mention was that the drawbacks and challenges, because we have no post-production phase, which is where like more of the granular, finer details would be kind of accentuated. We need to be very intentional about like every shape on screen. So I've kind of noticed if you don't draw it in the beats, it just won't happen. Even in times where I've kind of explained it in the handoff, if it's not literally drawn in the beats of and planned out how the transition is supposed to go, it doesn't seem like it will happen because the animator is on such a time crunch that all of this nice to have stuff kind of gets brushed over immediately. And in that case, I try and, save it for V2. So if the transition isn't quite where it wants to be, it's not really like the priority of the video. So if I try and like mention that in the feedback we get from V2, if the client feedback is like less than well, if there's not very much of it. But yeah, that's my presentation on how I think about transitioning and motion graphics videos.